Hi, everyone. On this week's episode of Sunday Spotlight, I am talking to psychotherapist Natalie Haynes, who works out of the Cornerstone Health Centre in Georgetown. So thanks for joining me today, Natalie.
Thanks for having me, Sara.
So if anyone isn't aware of what a psychotherapist is, can you tell us a little bit about what the definition of that is?
So I'm a psychotherapist. So the question I always get asked is, what's the difference between psychotherapy, psychology, and psychiatry? So psychotherapy, it's essentially like it's counseling. And so it's working with an individual around what they might be feeling emotionally, mentally, and getting them to become more aware of maybe some issues that they may be challenged with in their life. So if you have somebody that's dealing with anxiety and depression or relationship issues or grief, then they would essentially see a psychotherapist. So that could entail like talk therapy. There's a lot of different kinds of therapy that are available. A psychologist and a psychiatrist would be different. So a psychiatrist is an MD, and a psychologist psychiatrists can prescribe medication, whereas a psychologist, they do a lot of research. They do counseling as well, but they would do assessments. For psychotherapy, it's really if you were looking to deal with or understand maybe what you're experiencing from a mental health perspective, and want to talk to somebody about, how you can understand more about what you're dealing with.
So how long have you been a psychotherapist, and what did it sort of look like, your journey getting to that point?
I've been a psychotherapist. I started seeing clients in 2006. However, I did start, like when I started my career in my 20s, I started it in logistics and supply chain. Like I was in the corporate world for like 15 years. And then I saw a therapist when I was maybe about 24, which is like over 20 years now. I saw somebody for anxiety and I was like, oh, I think I really like this whole process. Like I feel like I could sit and do that. And at the time, in my full-time job, I would sit and talk with people all the time. There was one day way back early in the day when I was sitting in my cubicle, and I swear I had somebody sit in the chair, my cubicle chair, and sit and chat, and then get up, and another person would come and sit and chat, and another person would, like, the entire day.
So you were like doing it before you even were doing it?
Before I even was doing it. So I was like, can I get paid for this? This is amazing. So once I've sort of gone through my own journey and I was like, well, I actually see how this can help people, I decided that this is something that I wanted to do, and it just felt like it fit. So it took me a while to transition. I went to 2 different psychotherapy schools in Toronto, and I worked at the same time. I had babies at the same time. I got married like during all of that time, and I was sort of working both for a while. And then after my son was born, I left my old company.
So when should someone think about coming to see you?
I think that when people generally know when they are dealing with something or feeling something, or they just keep thinking about something, or they're feeling really anxious, and anxiety can look different for a lot of different people, and depression can look different, or feeling depressed can look different for a lot of different people. But I think when people are experiencing something like that, and they can't seem to get past it, they can't seem to enjoy their life, they can't seem to feel like they're very present. So, so you can be talking to somebody and you can be thinking in your mind the whole time and not really be enjoying what you're experiencing in the moment. That would be a time when I think that people would, know that, what it's how I'm feeling is starting to impact my life. And so that would be a time. And, so from there, depending on what you're dealing with, like if, people are dealing with anxiety, or they're feeling depressed, or they're feeling, if they've lost somebody, they may be feeling some grief. It's nice to come and talk to a psychotherapist because it offers a place where you can have an objective view. I'm not connected in somebody's life at all. And I think that, when we're sometimes a lot of people say, well, why would I come and talk to you if I could just talk to my friend, or I could talk to, a family member, which those things are important as well. But the reason why seeing a psychotherapist can be different is that I'm not in your life. So anything that you say to me, or anything that you would, discuss, there's no bias in it. I'm not on anybody's side. And, sometimes if you notice maybe how you might tell something to somebody, you may tell them and not tell them certain things because of the relationship.
Right.
Whereas, if you're talking to a psychotherapist, if I see you on the street, I'm not saying hi unless you say hi to me. So I'm sort of not in your life. So it sort of becomes a little pocket in your life where you can actually explore things without having to, feel like, oh, the next time I see them, what did I say? Like that sort of thing. So there's a place, it creates a place of like not having any judgment or feeling like you can just be safe and just sort of, talk about yourself for, however long or whatever it is. And in saying that, psychotherapy, at least with me, isn't just about talking. I don't just sit and listen for an hour. It's interactive and, getting people to explore, maybe doing different experiments or different exercises so that they can get a deeper understanding of what they're experiencing.
And do you help couples as well?
Yes. So people who may be dealing with relationship issues, they'll come and see me as well. And one of the things about that couples is a lot of times with couples, it's communication. There's a lot of communication, which everybody sort of knows generally. But the interesting thing is that, like I always say with couples, it's like something I say in therapy all the time. It's not about the dishes. Like, so people will fight about like the dishes, but it's not really about the dishes. It's like there's an underlying argument that's about the dishes. So, or that's about what's going on in the relationship. So I may be saying, well, you didn't put that away, or, but underneath I might be feeling like, well, I feel like I'm sort of alone in this relationship again, and it's harder for people to say the stuff underneath, the feelings that we're experiencing with somebody underneath. And so therapy can be a way for people to explore that and find out, what are we really saying to each other without saying it? What are the things that we don't maybe know how to say? And so having a therapist there just sort of slows the whole conversation down, because, as soon as you're into an argument, you're in it, so usually when you have somebody there, they can say, okay, whoa, what's happening?
Okay, so now on to COVID, because that's what everyone's talking about now. What kind of changes and how has your business changed since this all started?
It's changed a bit, but not a lot. So I was in New York that week, that week. So I saw everything sort of shut down. Like, Monday I'm walking around New York City and I happened to take a picture with the mayor. By Wednesday, NBA was closed. By Thursday, Broadway was closed. And by Friday, I was on a plane home and in isolation for 2 weeks. And from there, I really got to see what the anxiety level was like. So I was anticipating that it was going to be a lot. And, unfortunately, there's other practitioners in our practice, in the clinic, that are manual practitioners, and their businesses, they're not seeing anyone. And for myself, it hasn't really changed. The only thing that has changed is to see everyone virtually now.
So do you do it on Zoom, or do you have like a more secure platform kind of thing?
Yes, I think the first couple sessions I started with Zoom, and then, quickly learned that wasn't really the best option. And so our clinic has a platform, an online booking system, and that online booking system quickly implemented a private, or it adheres to all the different privacy regulations. And so I use a system in there.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I use video in there. So it's great. And so a lot of times I get the question, like, is it hard to see people? Is it the same? And it's a little bit different, seeing clients online. And and after a while, it definitely feels the same. It feels very similar. And it's almost useful in a way. So, I think for clients who are dealing with this, having the support of being able to, talk about what they're experiencing, I think is really useful. In terms of, but how it hasn't changed, and I still have the same amount of people that I'm seeing and all of that.
You haven't seen new patient inquiries go up with how stressed we all are?
I've seen some.
Okay, so you do have some new.
I do have some new people, yes, but not as much, not as many as I would think.
Speaking of being stressed during this whole thing, I mean, especially at the start, I think people are feeling a bit better now, but maybe I'm wrong with that. At least I am. But do you have any sort of tips or common things you're seeing and like ways people can address them?
Yeah, I think one of the big things around COVID and all of this is that we've had a loss. Like, there's been a loss to all of our support structures. Driving to work could have been like a 10 to 15, mine's like 25 minutes of just alone time to listen to a podcast or just have, be able to just sort of unwind before I walk into, have some alone time before I walk into work. All of those things are gone. So everything that we know and we would be used to doing, you have to almost think about that as like a structure that was already in place, and now all of those structures are dismantled. So I think for a lot of people, what they've experienced is actually, it's like grief. Because when we think of grief, we think of a loss of a person, which it is, but grief is also just a change in reality. And we do feel a lot of different feelings, like, denial and all kinds of things when there is a loss of reality, when there's a change to what we would normally be used to. So as you're saying, I agree. I think people are more adapted, and we're coming to a new transition because people are feeling a lot of this different stuff. I think one of the tips that I've been giving people is, don't expect that the same rules apply. The things that you would have done prior to COVID wouldn't necessarily apply like within COVID. So I think the biggest thing for people is if they could come to, like, whenever they're experiencing like something, you might not feel motivated one day, like giving yourself permission to not do all the things that you thought you would do. People are home with kids. Some people are home alone. Some people are, trying to manage work and family and all kinds of things. Everything is different. And so when I hear people saying, well, I should be doing X, Y, and Z because now I have this time, we also have to consider that there's a massive level of grief that people are experiencing.
That's
So
interesting.
every once in a while, just giving yourself like permission just to not do everything, or just to chill out, or just to, you might feel extra tired one day and just need to like veg on the couch for a little while. And I think when people allow themselves to do that, they give themselves the energy to do the next thing. But I think when we fight internally to try to make ourselves do all the things that we think we should be doing, that's when we have a lot of issues.
So if people are interested in following you or finding out more about what you're doing, like, where is the best place to do that?
So my website is nataliehaynes.ca. I'm on Instagram. So just look up Natalie Haynes Psychotherapy, and I'm on there. And then on Facebook, I'm also on Facebook. So Natalie Haynes, Registered Psychotherapist. And there I post, like, I have just different posts. I've got like a freebie on 6 tips to deal with anxiety, and that gives you access to my email list that I'm going to be giving out weekly, like, videos similar to what you're doing on like tips and different strategies and things that people can use. And yeah, on Facebook and these different platforms, I'll post, like, if I'm doing a workshop and that kind of thing, any kind of workshops and stuff. Cause I've done actually a series. So a series called Getting Comfortable with What's Uncomfortable. So the first one was just to help people dealing with anxiety during COVID. And the next one, which this will be airing today, when this airs at 2:30 today, we'll be doing a workshop on getting comfortable with what's uncomfortable with your kids. So to support parents who may be dealing with anxiety and help them, to give them the tools to help them support their children that may be dealing with this as well, because they're dealing with it just like we are. They may not have the words articulated, but they still are. So it's an opportunity to, give parents some really solid tools and strategies that they can use with their kids.
If you do that again, like, you post those updates on like your Instagram and Facebook saying it's upcoming and registration. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Do.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today. I do think that, like, our mental health right now is a super important topic. So I'm glad we could sit down and chat, and at least now people have a resource if they kind of didn't know where to turn. So I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, it was lovely. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Natalie. Have a great day.
Bye.